Willkommen. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Sean Huggins and this is React with Hugs. Today I have an interesting video picked out. This is what living under Hitler was really like. Oh, things in American politics are pretty crazy at the moment, and so I kind of thought to myself, how does this sort of thing happen? How does Hitler come to power? How does everyone, the common citizen just kind of stand around and have, let it happen and whatever? And I was just kind of thinking about this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in America right now. Kind of scary stuff. So saw this video and I was like, let's do some learning. What living under Hitler was really like. I don't know. Let's find out. Los Gates.
Monday, March 27th, 1939, 6:30 a.m. Brrrring. Walter wakes up to the sound of his alarm. His wife Greta is already in the kitchen preparing the usual breakfast, rye bread with butter and strawberry jam, served up with a steaming pot of black coffee. Should be an ordinary Monday for Walter, except for the fact that he lives in Nazi Germany, where Adolf Hitler is in charge of everything. On today's episode of the Infographics Show, Day-to-Day Life Under Hitler. Standing before the full-length mirror, Walter carefully slips into his pressed white shirt, gray tie, and dark gray wool suit. His teenage children have woken up. He smiles when he hears their voices in the bedroom they share in the family's modest two-bedroom Berlin apartment. Today is a big day for Walter. A leading Nazi official will visit his office at the Berliner Morgenpost newspaper, where he works as a journalist. Several smaller papers have been closed down in recent times for not adhering to the party message. All media these days is tightly controlled by the ministry, which is fine with Walter, but he has been hiding a secret, and he's not so sure if that's the reason for the visit today. He can't stop thinking, what if they knew? What if his past criticisms of the Nazi party came back to haunt him? 7 a.m. Greta sets the table. She's a dutiful woman dedicated to her role of bringing up good Aryan kids and supporting her husband. She gave up teaching, something she loved deeply, for the supposed good of the nation. Sometimes, though, she wonders, was it worth it? Greta's sacrifice was about getting unemployed men into jobs. In 1939, the unemployment rate is around 2% thanks to public work schemes, conscription, jobs in armament production facilities, and the exclusion of Jews and women like Greta from work. It's not all bad, she thinks. Life has improved, but at what—
Dang, so wait, no women were working? Really? I did not know that. Interesting.
What cost? She never much liked Hitler when he was coming up in the 1920s, but life for her family is much better now. She just hopes there won't be another war. That's all the people seem to talk about these days, war, especially after Hitler's full invasion of Czechoslovakia.
Sounds familiar. Oh boy.
Which Greta knows he had to do for German security. Their kids, Emma, who's 14, and Hans, 16, both wear the same daily uniform. Emma has a white blouse, a dark blue skirt, and a black neckerchief, while Hans is in his Hitler Youth uniform. This afternoon, Emma will attend activities with the League of German Girls. Hans will train with the Hitler Youth. A lot of the training these days is preparation for his future military duty. Hitler says weakness has to be knocked out of the boys, and only then will they learn to overcome the fear of death to accomplish the Nazis' new order. Hans is pretty certain his strength will be tested later today. 7:30 a.m. Hans loves the Hitler Youth like most boys do. Everyone likes camping, the campfire songs, the camaraderie, the sports, even the endless marching. Hans listens carefully in the Nazi ideology classes, and he loves the weapons training. But over the weekend, he made a mistake. A mistake that could cost him more than just his weekend plans. He played soccer, totally forgetting that he should have been taking part in a community service project, helping out farmers. Hans' friends told him that this was one of the most important community projects of the year. The leader was livid that some of the kids weren't there. It showed disrespect to the peasants, the heroes of Nazi Germany. The land and the rural values are bound in German blood, and Hans played soccer. He's dreading.
Dude, one mistake and you're done. Holy crap.
The punishment and humiliation he knows he has coming. 7:45 a.m. As Emma is finishing her breakfast, she's thinking about that girl down the street. Her parents tried to keep her away from the league. Not only could they receive a 150 Reichsmark fine, or even possible imprisonment under the Second Executive Order on the law about Hitler Youth, Emma knows if you do something wrong, your relatives can also get in trouble. The reasoning is that they should have reported the wrongdoing themselves. Kids should report their own parents, and have done in the past. Emma tries to finish her homework, an outline of the difference between a Jew and an ethnic German. At school today, she's going to give
Dude, a report about the difference between Jews and Germans? What the hell?
a presentation. She knows what's expected. She's been learning about the Jewish danger since she started elementary school. She's just a child, but already Emma has learned that to survive here, you must follow the rules, or else. 8 a.m. School starts at 8:30, but it's just around the corner and the tram stop is nearby. Hans and Emma leave together. As Greta takes the dishes to the basin, it's music time, she thinks, looking at the radio. She's been in love with the radio since her family bought their first one a few years back. She turns it on. A piece of classical music is just finishing. It's almost always classical these days, mostly German, a lot of Bach, Brahms, Beethoven, and Hitler's favorite, Wagner. Usually very uplifting, which is good for the German spirit. At 8:15, the Deutschlandsender broadcast echoes in the background, the low hum of Nazi propaganda filling the room. It's an hour-long program on Nazi ideology, military accomplishments, Aryan culture, and all the great things the Nazi Party has done for the nation over the last 6 years. It's all so normal now, yet Greta can't shake the feeling that it wasn't always like this.
Again, sounds pretty familiar.
Greta hopes Walter's going to be okay today. Walter wrote scathing political op-eds for his newspaper back then, which of course was allowed in the 20s. He wasn't exactly complimentary about the early Nazi Party, just as almost all educated Germans weren't. He hasn't admitted it to her, but Greta knows he is worried about the visit. Under the decree of the Reich President for the protection of the people and state, Germans can be arrested for even minor criticisms of Nazi ideology. Walter can't erase the past, and today he might just have to answer for it. 9:45 a.m. As always, school this morning started with the assembly. The headmaster read out a list of Nazi Party accomplishments, which was followed by a Nazi official who spoke to the kids about gender roles. Hans looked around nervously. Will the official mention his absence from the weekend duty? The fear of public humiliation gnaws at him. The official talked about what he said was real masculinity, mentioning the young men who left Hans's school and joined the Army and Schutzstaffel, the SS. The SS, he said, now has almost 300,000 members. Hans has thought about trying to join, but he'll need to prove his loyalty to Nazi ideology, which is another reason why he's worried about skipping farming on the weekend.
Oh boy.
The assembly ends with pledges of loyalty to the Führer and the Nazi salute. Heil Hitler, everyone shouts, and it's time for class. 10 a.m. Like most schools, Hans gets 5 one-hour-long sports lessons a week. And then there's more physical exercise in the Hitler Youth. On the front of Hans's exercise journal, it says, good Aryan men are slim, strong, and fit. They stand up straight with their chests out. They are proud. One of his favorite subjects is physics, where the work is often related to the development of military weapons. One day, Hans wants to develop rockets for the Nazis. It's all for the good of the nation to create prosperity and happiness. He just hopes his punishment today won't be too severe. 11 a.m.
Wow.
Emma's literature teacher just got fired. None of the kids knew it, but he was using books not approved by the Nazi Party. Emma heard that he wasn't even in the National Socialist Teachers League, like 97% of German teachers. This former teacher wasn't Jewish, but the new teacher told the class that he was now banned from teaching like the Jews, the communists, and other undesirables under the Restoration of the Professional Civil Service Act.
So just like that, if you teach about a book that wasn't approved, boom, you're gone instantly. Crazy. Seeing a lot of similarities.
This new guy said that he's just come from a 1-month compulsory Nazi teacher training course, which was a great place to truly understand how the regime's ideas should be the foundation for all learning. Otherwise, says the teacher, the German state would collapse like a house of cards. He tells the class that in universities, the Jews used to make up 12% of all professors and 25% of German Nobel Prize winners. But this was dangerous, he said. They were influencing young minds and promoting bad science, which, if left alone, would eventually weaken the moral fabric of society. Midday. As usual, Walter eats his packed lunch in the park. He sits on a bench watching people jogging. He loves what the Nazis have done here as part of their plan to turn Berlin into the grand capital of a new world empire. He takes in the scene around him. Everything is so much better now. The nightmare of the early 30s is still fresh in his mind. After the Wall Street crash of 1929, which Hitler said was caused by the Jews, the knife that had been plunged into Germany's back after the war was twisted. The wound reopened and had never fully healed. Pain and humiliation returned. Walter felt crushed, just as most Germans did. 1 p.m. Hans's next class is math. The question on the worksheet today is, in Germany, the Jewish population is considered a foreign race. In 1933, the German Reich had a total population of 66,060,000, of which 499,682 were practicing Jews. What percentage of the population does this represent? The answer, which Hans didn't get because he's bad at math, was 0.76%. However, Hans knows how to impress a teacher, so when the teacher asks what this means, he says, the implicit message here is that a very small number of Jewish people can cause untold damage. Well done, Hans, says the teacher. 2 p.m. Greta is getting ready to go out. Today, she's joining other housewives who, like her, belong to the National Socialist Women's Organization. Today, the meeting is about promoting good health among the citizens, one of the Nazis' main public initiatives. Last week, they had a class on the dangers of smoking. Greta hates smoking and agrees with the party's anti-smoking campaigns. Today's class includes information about herbal remedies, the importance of taking Nazi-sponsored spas, having regular physical examinations, and maintaining a healthy body weight. This will reduce national medical expenditures, says the teacher. The women are told later today that they should cook a Nazi-approved meal for their families. Greta already has an idea. 3 p.m.
Dang.
Walter is adding the final touches to his feature story on the Nazis' Strength Through Joy program. Millions of poor men and women, he writes, have enjoyed Nazi-sponsored sporting activities. They've seen movies, attended concerts, and been to art exhibitions, all free or at reduced cost. The Nazis are currently building a car for all people, the Volkswagen. It was unthinkable a few years ago that the working class could buy a car. 3:30 p.m. Hans is standing in the middle of a group of boys holding a rifle out in front of him. The other boys are shouting at him and ridiculing him. This is his punishment for skipping his community duty. Worse, Hans now won't be going on this weekend's camping trip. He's been given 10 demerit points, which will ensure his journey through Hitler Youth will be difficult. Don't think this won't affect your parents, the youth platoon leader tells him, explaining that Hans's transgression has gone all the way up to the district leader. This is the worst part. His dad's job at the newspaper will almost certainly come under scrutiny. 4 p.m. Emma's afternoon has gone considerably better than her brother's. She's spent the last hour with the League of German Girls practicing first aid and doing mock air raid drills. All of the girls are excited. They've been told they'll be representing the entire school next week, performing a synchronized march to honor the opening of a new hospital. The Nazis say it'll have the most advanced pediatrics department in the entire world. 4:30 p.m. Walter's smile is as wide as his face.
It's a busy
Just
day.
a few minutes ago, the Nazi officer spoke in front of the entire editorial department. At the end of his speech on the importance of building morale among the citizens with positive, forward-looking content, he asked everyone in attendance who'd written the article on the recent tree planting initiatives, the Eternal Forest program, that falls under the Reich Nature Protection Law. Walter had written it. The official tells Walter and the group that he'll receive recognition in all of Germany's media. Next month, he'll meet the great Joseph Goebbels and receive the Goebbels Prize at the Reich Ministry of Public Enlightenment and Propaganda. He'll also get a bonus and will be given a weekly column to promote all the new Nazi green initiatives. He can't wait to tell Greta and the kids. Maybe Hans will finally cheer up. 5 p.m. Greta is preparing the evening meal. It's going to be a stew based on concepts the Nazis created to promote money saving and the importance of people's community. After the Nazis came to power, this was the meal given out by the Winter Relief Fund to very poor people. As Greta stirs the pot, her mind wanders. Will there be rationing if war breaks out? Will her family survive the changes to come? Hitler says welfare makes society weak. It's for feeble people, although the Nazis do have the National
Sounds familiar. Once again, sounds familiar.
Socialist People's Welfare Program. It's only for Aryans, and it's certainly not available to alcoholics, tramps, homosexuals, prostitutes, the work-shy, the asocial, habitual criminals, or the hereditarily ill. Greta's version of the stew will have pork, vegetables, potatoes, and legumes. And the secret ingredient that she learned about at her women's group, black beer. She hopes war doesn't break out because if it does, there will be rationing. 5:30 p.m. One thing that never fails to amaze Walter on his walks home from work is the absence of homelessness. He knows many people have been rounded up, labeled as asocials, and packed off to the labor camps where they wear black triangles on their uniforms. Under Hitler's orders, the Germans have already started sending Jews to prison camps. The first concentration camp, Dachau, was opened in 1933, initially for political opponents, but now it's home to the Jews, Roma gypsies, communists, socialists, liberals, and anyone deemed radical. What actually happens in those camps besides labor, Walter doesn't know. He does know that Jews' legal rights have been taken away. They've been forced out of their homes, lost their businesses, or had to sell them for much less than their value. As he nears his apartment block, Walter looks at the shoe store that was taken over after the Jewish family was forced out. It's not that Walter supports everything that's happened to the Jews, but he's not about to try to stop it either. Life is so much better for him, and he now is getting promotions and bonuses at work for writing about programs that he believes will genuinely benefit his family. He's not going to rock the boat. 6:30 p.m. As usual, Hans and Emma are in their room doing their homework. As dinner is being cooked, Walter and Greta are in the kitchen listening to the radio. Walter will wait until after dinner to make his announcement. 7:30 p.m. The family sits down to dinner. Hans barely touches his stew and doesn't say much. Walter is about to tell everyone about his promotion when the subject, as always, turns to war. No one wants to imagine a full-scale war happening with the other European powers. Walter says the rearmament plan and Czechoslovakia is a matter of national security, and why should Germany not have the ability to protect itself? Hitler, says Greta, her knife stabbing into a piece of pork, just wants Germany to be treated on an equal footing. I have an announcement, says Walter. I have won the Goebbels Prize, and I'm going to run a national column on the green initiatives of the Nazi Party. Greta claps. Emma screams for joy. For a brief moment, they celebrate. But even now, Walter wonders, does this recognition mean he is truly safe, or is it just another way to keep him in check? Greta leans over and puts her arm around Walter's neck, kissing him on the cheek. Just as Walter peers over to Hans, who looks troubled by something. Walter senses that something is off, but before he can say anything, Hans speaks up. "Dad," Hans says in a glum voice, his face deadly serious, "I've got something to tell you." Now you need to watch our giant deep dive on World War II.
Whew. Wow. That was a lot. Yeah. A lot of similarities in this video compared to just a lot of stuff that's happening today, you know? Some say that history repeats itself. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. We'll see, though. As always, I'm curious what you guys, the experts, have to say about it. So let me know your thoughts on the video. Leave your mustard down in the comments section below. But that being said, that's all the time that I have for today. So thank you guys so much for being here. And as always, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.